much the next few months. Apps. This looks good. This actually looks really, really good. You know what apps reminds me of a little bit? It actually reminds me of EOSC, like right here before it broke out. It's kind of got a similar look. It actually looks very, very similar. Yeah, this is nice. You buy MAs, but if you buy on MAs, we have to sit on a lot of chop before it breaks out, or is the MA strategy buy strategy just to scalp 30, 40 gains? Well, yeah, you would. The whole point of buying at the moving averages is just so you can get a better risk reward, because your risk is really low. You're buying near the lows, so you can sit in it for a little bit longer. But yeah, ideally you want to get like a profit cushion, and then that way you can hold for the breakout without having to buy at the highs. But you only really want to do this when the market's super, super, super choppy, like how it's been. So I have one question. Accumulation is clear in stage one basis weekly time frame. Is that similar to stage 3 top? Is weekly a better time frame to check for distribution? Yeah, I think weekly is definitely better for distribution because it's going to be more apparent. Now, thing is, like, you want to go back and study some of the like actual proven distribution bases and see what they had in common. But a lot of them are like big weekly kind of setups like this, and they just like fail to go higher. A big tell though, GG, is like if a stock stops consolidating near the highs. So this is how a strong stock usually should move. Like it'll consolidate near the highs, boom, right? But when a stock starts doing this and it starts consolidating with lower highs, it's probably going to break down off the, like exactly like what ARK did. Like I'll show you an example on Tesla too. So look at the Tesla daily right here. Like this looked like it was good, right? Like it was a nice base, but it was consolidating too much near the lows. Like it kept making lower highs. You actually want it to be like this kind of, and then making higher lows into the highs. Like those are usually the best. Oust. Yeah. I don't know if I'd trade this thing just because like how many times it fails to break out, but the setup is definitely nice. Ken is the Fifi stock, bro. It looks so good. Palantir looks ready to break out, I think. It had the shakeout yesterday. Again, I probably would buy it off the 50 EMA though. Like obviously at this point it's too late. Like if you look at the hourly, like buying it here to me is like suicide. Like sure it can break out, but you're buying it and it's like a proven range of like massive supply. Like there's just a ton of supply up here, like where I drew my zone. Like sure it could break out, but what's stopping it from rejecting like the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 20 plus times, right? If you buy it near the moving averages, now you have cushion. You can take off some and then hold the rest in case it is ready to break out. But I prefer to buy it once it breaks out or like off the moving averages. Home Depot, I don't love the setup. There's just like not really much on it. But with CPI, Home Depot is usually prone to it, so it might move tomorrow. FTAI, this looks really good. It just has earnings like in 2 days. Saba, yeah, this has nice volume patterns too. Just needs to get a little bit tighter. Guys, I actually also think biotech should be definitely a big watch. Like biotech should be a big, big watch. What about NVTS here off the 8 EMA? I would need to see some sort of like I would need to see some sort of like strong hourly hammer with volume, for example, because right now it's not really putting that in. But you could try it. I mean, the risk is very low, but I'd prefer for it to have more volume off the spot. Like, I'll show you what usually a good 8 EMA buy will look like. When the stock like tests the 8 and then it starts to get like volume. It didn't really happen here, but usually it would be something like this. Like the volume is low, stock tests to 8, and then at the end of the day, the volume is a bit higher. It didn't really happen here. Let's see if I can find something where it did happen. I guess kind of be like AMD here, but it didn't necessarily test the 8 yet. But like you wouldn't want it to be like this, because like if it's like this, like what AMD is doing now, it's clearly a strong stock, but I think it just needs more time. And check out crowd. Yeah, Tony, this one looks sick. I think it's already at all-time highs, actually. Yeah, this one looks insane. Like, this looks insane. Like, honestly, I would be surprised if crowd doesn't gap up tomorrow, as long as market doesn't gap down. Like, look at the way it's setting up into the close. You know what I mean? How do you determine EMA buys versus usual 5-minute close on breakout? Well, I'd say most of the time I want to buy breakouts. The only thing is like it all just depends on the environment. Like the environment's going to tell me what to do. If I start buying breakouts and everything is working, then I'm going to keep buying breakouts. But if I start buying breakouts and stuff doesn't work, for example, you've probably noticed the last like 10, 14 days, right? Every single time a potential breakout might happen, it just gets smacked back down. So like I'm not going to fight the market. If it's telling me that it's not ready to move higher and it's choppy, that's when I start looking for EMA buys. INOD. This one doesn't have the prettiest volume patterns, but it could be setting up a wedge for sure. Something like this. SoFi looks good. Yeah, dude. SoFi looks really, really, really good. Just has earnings. But like look at the weekly on SoFi, guys. Like what? This looks so good. I noticed Palantir is going up on shrinking volume. What does that imply? I think it mainly implies the fact that like volatility is contracting. We don't necessarily, there's not like enough volume, I'd say, anomalies here to really determine if this is like distribution or not. I would say it's definitely not accumulation because accumulation usually happens near like key lows after a drawdown, which Palantir hasn't had. But I think it's just market participants waiting for some sort of catalyst. And in my opinion, it's probably just the earnings, right? The earnings coming up. I think like when volume dries up like this, it usually just means like participants are in agreement where it's like they think price should be somewhere where it's at pretty much. So like usually means more consolidation. TTD, this one looks nice. You can look for like a inverse head and shoulders breakup through the gap. Front run Tesla right now. Not with options, but I would probably, I mean, I have a lot of shares on this. I would probably buy more shares. Thing is, like, I would love to see Tesla just go maybe a few more days under the spot and then break out above. I think that would be the ad. It's just tough to like, it already moved 8% off the low, right? It's like tough here at this point to buy it, in my opinion. Even though it could still go up. NKTR. Yeah, this looks nice. Pharmaceuticals, biotech. Yeah, looks good. It's a nice theme. QBT. 18.5 calls, eh? Expiring tomorrow. I could see it potentially. I guess it's a retest of the moving averages here, but like, I don't know. I don't love the way Quantum's like rejecting the backside of the EMAs. How do you buy breakouts without top blasting it? Well, top blasting only refers to the fact that like you're buying a stock that's super extended into the breakout. Like I'll show you an example. Okay, so let's say your breakout level on snow is right here, like the high, right? So if today's snow, let's say, went all the way up here and then you bought it right here, it would have been up 5% before you bought it, which is like double its ADR. That's a top blast. But if I bought it right here, let's say I thought this was the breakout level. Well, from there it's only up to 2%. You know what I mean? So there's a massive difference. Top blasting only refers to like, for me at least, it's like whenever you buy a stock that's clearly already extended its ADR, and then you're buying the breakout once it already pretty much made the move. So like you're buying a break, you're basically trying to buy a big move into resistance, essentially, right? But if you buy it like right when it's near its low of day or when it hasn't even really moved much on the day, then that's a valid breakout. For example, like right here would have been nice because it didn't really move much. But like if you bought this, you know, that then you're obviously if you bought it here, then you're top blasting. But most of the best breakouts happen near the key level because they're so tight. That's kind of the whole point. Like stocks get so tight when they're about to break out. For example, like SoFi, let's say tomorrow it opens up right here. This is the breakout level, right? Look at how tight it is. Like it's just right at the breakout spot. This is such a good buy. But if it like tested the 50 and then broke out all in the same day and you bought it up here, then like that to me is a top blast. You know what I mean? Today's volume seems to be low. Spy QQQ. Do I trust this? It's not really a matter of trusting. It's more so just waiting to see where we go from here, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely low volume. I think it tells us that market participants are waiting for some sort of catalyst. We have CPI tomorrow, and then we also have, you know, the big tech earnings later down the line next week. I think Google, Apple, I think are reporting. Let's see. You know, Apple's the week. Oh no, yeah, actually, Apple's next week. Amazon's next week. Google's next week. Meta's next. Yeah, like next week is going to be basically all about big tech earnings. So I think the market might just be waiting for that, which is why, you know, like volume is pretty low. Like nobody really wants to buy into big tech earnings, right? Like they kind of want to see how things settle and then make a better decision from there. GLW, yeah, dude, this looks good. Like GLW is like a PSTG. I think I might like PSTG more just because GLW moved so much, but GLW is clearly like the leader. But like look at how look at how insane the weekly is on this, guys. Pretty insane. Google, yeah, it just has earnings. Like it looks good, but I don't think it'll move before earnings, but it looks really good. Lulu, look for a wedge pop. So if it breaks over the 50, that could be a good one. Gap, it's got a big weekly base, but it's not really threatening to kind of break out yet because it's still just sitting in this base. Like it could take a while for it to break out of this. What just happened to AMD? What happened? Just looks like normal price action to me. Looks like it failed to break the high on the lower time frames. What are the entries you use? EMA breakouts. What else? I'd say 90% of the time it's just gonna be a breakout trade with volume. That is the only thing I use for confirmation. That is where my best results are. EMA tests when market becomes a little bit choppy, and then retests of the breakout is something I use as well. All fake profiles. Thank you, bro. I'm gonna ban all them right now. When buying the EMA, should we be looking at the daily 50 or 21? Well, it just depends on where the stock is. So for example, if the USAR is at the daily 50, then we want to use the daily 50, like if it's right here. Ideally though, in my opinion, the best entries are off the daily 8 because when the stock holds the daily 8, it still has momentum. If it starts breaking the daily 8, like I'll show you guys for example, look at RGTI. Look at how much momentum it had off the daily 8, right? Right here would have been a perfect buy, right here. But once it starts losing the daily 8, it just becomes frothy. Like it could go higher for sure, but it just loses that kind of like spark that it has under the daily 8, which is why I usually use that as my stop loss for commons. What I feel about the metals minerals sector, honestly, I think it's a good dip buy idea. Like I'm personally watching USAR very, very carefully. The only thing is you don't want to be too quick on this. You want to give this a bit more time. The IV is also really like the IV is really, really getting pumped out of this, which is good, meaning we'll get cheaper options. I'd like to buy it near like 21.5, maybe 20.4-ish. Does volume have to be at the breakout, or does it work if there was volume a few days before breakout, for example, Walmart? Well, ideally the volume has to be at the breakout. So for something like Walmart, right, it did have volume here, but what we want to see is like high volume on the first move, right? Low volume on the consolidation, and then high volume again, right? That is the volume patterns we're looking for. So I'll show you an example. Look at like RGTI. Look, it did exactly that, right? So it had high volume on the breakout on the first initial leg. It gets set back up in a flag. Volume goes lower, and then boom, volume comes back in. So the volume should basically move exactly like how the stock is moving. When the stock is moving up, volume should be moving up, right? Obviously, it's a pattern. It doesn't have to be like every day it goes up, but ideally, like overall, the volume goes higher. Then the volume gets incredibly low when it starts to consolidate, and then it starts getting a ton more volume again, right? That tells you that it's ready to continue to go higher. I see on the app volume patterns. So keep in mind, right? The volume that it had here on September 19th was likely due to the quad witching that we had. Where that usually makes like volume anomalies like this. I don't think there was anything here other than just that created this big volume bar. If you completely take out this volume bar right here, overall the volume has been pretty, I would say, on the bearish side, especially since like this investigation right here, the DOJ probe. It looks like volume is more on the downside. It just makes it hard to see when you have like that big giant candle. But like if you zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see the volume has been incredibly low on the buy side days, like even today. But it's holding the 50 so far. So I would only short this once it breaks down. Like there's no reason to short it now, right? You want to wait for it to break down. Where do I find all my news? Right here. You just go on. I like this guy in the morning. Wall Street Engine. He posts some great stuff. I also follow this guy, Fast Market or Fast Stock News. He posts things like right as they come in, which is good. Here, I'll drop the X links for you. All right, cool. Let's see. Market's closing in 15 minutes. Let's see what we got. So I probably wouldn't want to buy, like I said, like swings right now into resistance. I think that's just not the way to go about this here with the market, being this choppy. But we can get prepped for tomorrow in case there's any good ideas. I think the main goal is to see if SPY can get through the highs, and then we can kind of crack this level and make new highs. QQQ, same thing. If we can get through the high, right? But look at how big this level of resistance has been. Like if you go on the hourly, you can see every single time we come up to these highs, we just kind of get stuffed up here. So I'd be very, very careful buying near these highs. It's very clear that the market is continuing to hold the moving averages though. So like I said, like I think those are the best areas to buy. But yeah, I want to narrow down my watch list real quick. So I'm definitely watching USAR. This one, we'll watch if it sets back up. I think honestly, RR probably gonna be one of the better ones next few days. ASML looks insane. eBay looks good. I think this one, CRDO, guys, is gonna be a beast. When this finally breaks out of the base, I think a lot of stocks are just doing something like this. Again, if you go back and look at how much consolidation we've had since this big move in April on a lot of stocks, it's been like almost zero. There's been almost no big bases. And a lot of them are just kind of setting that up now. Like you can go on the weekly and kind of see it. Looks real good. And that's pretty much what stocks need to go higher. It just might take a little bit more time, is the thing. A little bit more consolidation. Also, if we're looking along, I'd really only stick to software and semis. I think those are the safest sectors. And maybe banks. I think banks look pretty good. Like BAC to me looks solid. Where do I find the leading themes? Pretty much just using this. Pretty much just using this sector watch list. I'll drop it in the chat for you as well. So I have like a list of all the industries and sectors in the market, and I kind of just do like a manual scan. So for example, today you can kind of go through and see which sector has the most strength and which ones are kind of popping up. For example, like blockchain stocks and like data centers are making a nice rebound. Pretty much everything is green, but you can see, for example, like solar is pretty mixed. So I would say this sector is probably a little bit weaker today. Airlines, cruises, hotels are all really weak. So like the travel sector is pretty weak. Industrials are kind of mixed as well, but like on the stronger side, healthcare is pretty weak. Retail is pretty weak. But then like you can see chips are all super strong, except for SMCI. But that's probably news. But everything else is like very good. So semis are clearly strong. Then what you do is you go on the actual index for these sectors. So for example, chips, you have SMH or SOXL, SOXL, which is the bull ETF. And then you can kind of see how this looks compared to the market. So this is setting up really well with the market actually. It's setting up a nice big base. It's right at the highs. So clearly a strong sector. And also what helps a lot is you go through the individual stocks and notice how a lot of these stocks in semiconductors are all just consolidating at the highs, which is incredibly strong for, a sector that's for a market that's pretty weak. All these stocks are pretty much consolidating at the highs. So for example, like this one right here, like this is sports betting. Look at how weak this is. It's way off the high. So it's clearly a weak sector. But then look at software, right? It's setting up in a tight base. It's above the 50. A lot of these software stocks are breaking out. That's how I know this is a good theme. Like, and then from there, all you want to do is just find the setup that looks best to you. For me, for example, I think Snow looks the best out of this sector. And maybe ZS looks good. Crowd looks good actually as well. Look at ZS. This looks really good. And then yeah, like China looks pretty nice too. And we're just scrolling through and seeing, you know. Now, the cool thing is I'm also working, me and Steven are gonna be working on an algorithm that's gonna be able to find you guys the best stocks in the market, like in like one click. It's basically gonna be like a GPT power tool that's gonna be like on crack to finding some of the strongest stocks. But that's probably gonna take a few weeks, few months to finish. Tesla kind of triggering here, yeah. I literally cannot buy this though in good conscience, you know. But I think tomorrow is going to be a buy. Like tomorrow, if it gets through the trigger, it's a buy. So it's like it'll be my top watch. Honestly, if CPI is good tomorrow, I think we probably rip through all-time highs. I don't think a lot of people are prepared for it. Because a lot of people are kind of like scared with how shaky the market's been. Thoughts of getting Walmart today? I would say yeah, it's honestly not a bad entry at all because it's like right next to the low. Just make sure you size it like half. It's not breaking out. Does spot look like distribution? Yeah. Yeah, spot looks like distribution. This is a good example. So I think the issue with a lot of these like Netflix spot, right? They were very good in the early part of 2025 because they were like tariff resistant. So a lot of money was kind of flowing into here, but now that markets don't care as much about the tariff stuff, um, these companies need to pivot into integrating AI because the market's just rewarding like Google, for example, which is like the leader in AI, quantum, robotics, even like autonomous driving and things like that. So money, I mean, I would say I'm not sure if Spot and Netflix will completely get sold off, but I think they'll need to base for a lot longer until either they start implementing AI or the market starts rewarding, you know, these companies again. Even though I guess Spotify has the DJX, but it's not that great. He only cooks sometimes. What time frame do you see high volume breakouts? Because sometimes on the daily the volume isn't above the cloud, but I still see you enter. Yeah, so obviously on the daily, volume will be delayed, right? Like I wouldn't be able to see the volume until the end of the day. So what you want to use is the lower time frames, or you could use like a relative volume indicator. So for example, right, let's look at something that's breaking out. Let's look at eBay, okay, on this day right here. So let's go down to the lower time frame. When eBay's starting to break out, let's go on like the 5-minute, right? When eBay's starting to break out right here, you want to compare the volume to the previous few days and see if like there's like a ton of volume and the volume projection is high, right? It obviously on this day right here would have been pretty hard to kind of see because of this big candle here, like the sell side candle. But overall, that's how you'd kind of look, right? Usually, I think the 15-minute and 5-minute makes it very easy to see, especially on like stuff that's super liquid is easy. Like the Tesla breakout, for example, that we had right here. It was so easy to spot. Like right here when it was breaking out, look how much volume it had on the lower time frames on the 15. It was much higher. And it was even higher than the open. Even right here, like look at the next day, just a ton of volume. So sometimes you just want to look at the lower time frames. As long as the stock is breaking out and on the lower time frame, you see a volume anomaly, meaning the volume is higher than the cloud. So for example, right here on the 5-minute, volume is higher than the cloud. That's going to be your entry. What are all Stevens indicators? Are those all necessary? No, not at all. I mean, indicators, but like inherently are not necessary at all. It's just like an extra layer if you want to use it. But it just depends on the person. Some people like to use indicators, some people don't. I'm personally somebody who doesn't use as many on my chart. I like it to be clean and just like simple price action. But you can use them if you want, you know. Do I like D-Dog for tomorrow? D-Dog for tomorrow. I think Snow looks better. I think Snow looks better, but it doesn't look bad. You know, it's probably gonna need to consolidate because it like ran so much into this big resistance level. But I think Snow, the reason why I think Snow looks better, much tighter, and look at the weekly on it. It has like almost no resistance above until like 400, which would be like a 2x. XYZ. Oh yeah, dude, this looks good on the weekly. That looks nice. SNDK. Dude, holy shit. Dude, there's just some stocks, man, that are just so strong in this market. It's crazy. Like, honestly, we have to just be in these names. Like the computer peripherals is like where it's at. Drew, like I think like WDC, PSTG, like we gotta get in these. They have setups. Look at WDC. I guess it has earnings, so that's kind of annoying, but we just gotta watch these stocks. They're so good. Let's see if there's anything else. STX, not bad. I think PSTG might be the one. Let's see. WDC after ER, yeah. Yeah, this sector is just cracked. With us closing at the top of the range, we're expecting a big move tomorrow. Yeah, I honestly agree. I think we break out over the all-time high, to be honest. For stock, if the options contract is low volume and mid-open interest, you just trade shares? Yeah. Either trade shares or look for something similar in the group. I got so screwed over yesterday. I was looking at the one thing that kind of sucks with trading puts that I realized is like puts have very low OI and volume. I was looking at APLD puts yesterday, and I just couldn't get myself to buy a contract because like all of them had literally 5 OI, like 10 volume. So like I'm literally gonna own the whole chain. I guess it depends on the stock though. Do you ever focus on how extended a name is from the EMAs on the weekly or just the daily? I would say like mainly on the daily, but on the weekly you do want to like toggle between it and kind of check because for example, like if it's way off the 8, it's probably not going to be a good breakout buy. But if it starts consolidating at the 8, like how WDC is doing right now, it's actually really good. TSCG might leave behind? I don't think so. Am I still in Walmart? Yeah, I'm gonna swing Walmart. It's holding the 8 EMA on the daily. Like, I don't think there's a reason to sell this one yet. Oh shit, market's about to close. Yeah, I'm not gonna take anything else here into the end of the day, guys. But tomorrow, I think there's gonna be some good opportunities. We'll see how things move. But I do like how tight we're getting. I think that's a good sign for the market to finally maybe hopefully get us out of this range. But I think the most important thing is just being in the right stocks, guys. Like, even though the markets have been shaky, there's just been a few really good ones that don't really care. I think right now the stock is more important than the setup even, which usually doesn't happen much, but I'd prefer to trade a good stock with a mediocre setup than a good setup on a mediocre stock. Can you explain more why DDoG needs more consolidation?